The term blink and you'll miss it is one that gets thrown around quite a bit, but when it comes to UFC, it couldn't be more accurate. Now, mixed martial arts is high-paced and explosive to begin with, but throw in the adrenaline of the crowd, the hype of the big occasion, and a fighter who comes out the gate guns blazing, and it could be over before it's even begun. And we've all been there before, haven't we, chaps? Now, granted, a lot of matches do go the whole 9 yards, which is great when you get a bloody brawl or a technical masterclass, but many are decided in a matter of seconds. And when you do get the pleasure of that firework of a match, there's something unmistakably electric about it. At UFC 194, Conor McGregor's lightning-fast knockout of then featherweight champion Jose Aldo happened in just 13 seconds, unlucky for some, Mr. Aldo, but that doesn't even nearly break the top 10 on this particular list. While the bar for fastest knockouts is higher than Mark Renton in the worst toilet in Scotland, the times themselves are jaw-droppingly low. And on that note, I'm Adam Nicholas, and these are the 10 fastest UFC knockouts of all time. Number 10, Mark Weir, 10 seconds. Mark Weir only ever fought in the UFC 3 times, losing 2 of those matches, but the one he did win, sweet f***ing Christmas, what an emphatic win that was. Taking on Eugene Jackson at UFC 38 in London, England, Weir flattened Jackson in just 10 seconds when he followed a high kick attempt with a lethal right jab. Eugene was gone faster than a toupee in a hurricane. While Weir's UFC career may have been fairly unremarkable, he'll always be remembered for this clinical knockout. Number 9, Gray Maynard, 9 seconds. When you think of Gray Maynard, most people probably think of his classic trilogy with Frankie Edgar, a rivalry that probably took more than a few years off his UFC career, but did earn him a Fight of the Year award for the monster 5-round draw at UFC 125. Maynard clearly proved he can do the long and ugly fights when it matters, but he does also boast a much shorter victory from earlier in his UFC run. With a devastating left hook, Maynard dropped Joe Veres faster than third period French, knocking the Californian out in just 9 seconds. It's a shame it was only the opening fight of the prelims for UFC Fight Night 11, but talk about starting with a bang. Number 8, Leon Edwards, 8 seconds. Leon Edwards took only 8 seconds to claim his first win in the UFC by knocking out Seth Brzezinski. Despite the fact that Brzezinski had far more UFC experience and started the bout aggressively, Edwards calmly waited for his opening, dropping the Polish pistola with a straight left and finished him on the ground in a blink and you'll miss it fight. Edwards even walked off before the ref officially stopped the contest, knowing he'd done enough in 8 seconds to claim victory and a performance of the night bonus. Not a bad night's work. Number 7, Makwana McCarney, 8 seconds. Now on paper, Makwana McCarney doesn't have your typical UFC pedigree. As a former model and winner of the Mr. Finland pageant 2012, some people might be quick to dismiss the Finnish fighter, but one man who probably doesn't feel that way is Andy Ogle. Amir Khani made his debut against Ogle at UFC on Fox 14, and as soon as the bell rang, he smashed the Englishman with a lethal flying knee, followed by some heavy rights, and that was all she wrote. With the official time at 8 seconds, you'd imagine Amir Khani probably had longer bloody catwalks back in the day. Number 6, Don Frye, 8 seconds. Don Frye is an old school legend in the MMA world, and he makes the list with his incredible 8-second stoppage win over Thomas Ramirez in his very first professional fight at UFC 8. Not only that, but UFC 8 took place in 1996, during the days of the one-night tournament format, and in his next match of the night, Frye would finish Sam Adkins off in just 48 seconds before eventually winning the tournament with a 2-minute victory over Gary Goodridge. Number 5, James Irvin, 8 seconds. The last of our 8-second knockouts, and obviously there's been a few, comes in the form of James Irvin's victory over Houston Alexander at UFC Fight Night 13. It represented the start of Alexander's decline, who admittedly had been fairly overhyped prior to his losses against Thiago Silva and Irvin, but it'd be fair to say it also signified the peak of Irvin's career. He was booked to face Anderson Silva after this, but lost that match by knockout in just over a minute, and if that wasn't bad enough, he then went and failed his post-fight drug test too, just for good measure. Number 4, Todd Duffee, 7 seconds. When Todd Duffee started his UFC career, he was surrounded by a ton of hype, courtesy of his 7-second knockout victory over Tim Hague at UFC 102. Duffee would fight 9 months later in a losing bout against Mike Russo, a match he dominated for the majority before being caught by 2 big right hands, and he was then surprisingly released just 4 months later. He did return in 2012, but injuries as well as a bout of Parsonage-Turner syndrome have plagued his career since. Number 3, Ryan Jimmo, 7 seconds. Ryan Jimmo entered the UFC after a successful stint in MFC, among others, and in his debut fight at UFC 149, he instantly made a name for himself. He put Anthony Perosh away in 7 seconds with the first ever punch in his UFC career, leaving the Australian Perosh absolutely didgeridooed. With that, Jimmo officially joined the illustrious 7-second club, along with one Todd Duffee, and of course this chap. Number 2, Chan Sung Jung, 7 seconds. At UFC 140 in Toronto, Canadian Mark Hominick was looking to land the victory for his hometown crowd when he went one-on-one with the Korean zombie Chan Sung Jung. And that would have been a lovely story too, were it not for the fact that just 7 seconds into the match, the Korean zombie absolutely nailed Hominick on the button, earning a TKO victory over the Canadian. Safe to say there was only one zombie at the end of this match, and it wasn't Chan Sung Jung. And number 1, Duane Ludwig, Ludwig, 6.06 seconds. Now, officially, according to the NSAC, the governing body who oversaw this fight at UFC Fight Night 3, Duane Ludwig defeated Jonathan Goulet by knockout after 11 seconds. So what the hell is he doing at the top of this list, I hear you cry? Well, as the story goes, the timekeeper slept on the fight and his stoppage was delayed. I mean, fair enough, he's a busy guy, he's got stuff to do. It's not like the only job he'd been given this night was to keep the time or anything. As a result, this record was always contested by fans who were adamant that Ludwig's knockout was much quicker. And after numerous online campaigns to have the time changed, in stepped Dana White. Despite the NSAC stating they couldn't overturn the decision, Dana contacted Ludwig on Christmas Eve of 2011 no less to inform him that they would be officially giving him the record of fastest knockout in UFC with a time of 6.06 seconds. Finally, Ludwig was given the recognition he deserves, and that is what you call a Merry f***ing Christmas.
Wow, wasn't that great, guys? I don't know, it's your decision. Subscribe if you enjoyed it down here. Check out more of our content over here, or check out some of our other channels over here. Oh, you better click it before I do. No, seriously, you should click it though.